Or everyone. So yesterday I had a chance to jump into the Outriders demo. I played for about 3 or 4 hours. It went live here in the UK at about 5 PM. I played from about 6 until 10 o'clock or so. So I had pretty good time to play the demo through, and I wanted to give you my initial thoughts and feedback on it. So yeah, I had really high expectations coming into this demo because, well, firstly, the fact that the devs had released a demo, something I haven't seen for a very long time, to everyone as well, a public demo, not something like a beta which was attached to a pre-order, said to me that the devs were pretty confident in the product that they had. And I can kind of see why after playing the demo. Secondly, I think everyone in the looter-shooter kind of space is looking for that next big looter-shooter, whether it be, you know, the next Destiny or the next Division 2 or whatever, just the next looter-shooter. And let's be honest, guys, the people that play in this genre, for the most part, who stick to this genre, they're a hard crowd to please. So it was always going to be very difficult for the devs to reach those expectations. So after playing for about 3 or 4 hours, what I've done is I've made a list of stuff that was good, bad, and kind of in between. I want to talk about my experience with it so far. So the first thing for me, the most I would say the most obvious thing for me is the movement in this game. So if you like Gears of War, then you're going to probably love the movement in this game, because it's very... I never played Gears of War, but I've seen enough of it to know that this game plays very much like how Gears of War does in terms of movement. It's very kind of sudden, arcadey type movement. When you're in cover, for example, the movement from left to right is very quick. The dodging is very quick. The aiming as well, like with shotguns and stuff, feels very reminiscent of Gears of War. So yeah, I mean, if you like that, then you're probably going to love the movement in this game. For me personally, I'm not a fan of the movement at all, and it's probably one of my biggest issues with this game, is that the movement for me personally is not something that I enjoy. I prefer the movement that you get from something like the Division 2, where it feels like the character has weight to them. Okay, in this game it doesn't feel like that. It's more of an arcade type movement. It's less so realistic. With that said, it kind of works with this game, because this game is about movement. It's about getting in the face of your enemies, because really the only way to heal in this game is to do damage. And so the best way to do damage is to get up and close in your enemy's face. And it has that kind of arcadey type shooter to it. So in that respect, it's fun for that. But for me personally, movement-wise, it's not really my cup of tea. Also, I don't think the game does it quite as good as Gears of War, in particular the cover. I had some real issues kind of going from cover to cover a little bit. Also, just kind of getting into cover initially didn't feel great. It didn't feel as good as other games that have very good cover-based systems, like The Division or like Gears of War do. So in that respect, it kind of fell for me there as well. So yeah, overall movement, cover stuff for me wasn't the best. Now, what I will say is that by far the best part about the Outriders demo is the abilities. So I played, I think it was Technomancer for the majority, and I really loved playing that character. I think it was Technomancer. Basically, what I had initially was this kind of mine that you could throw out, and then if an enemy got close to that mine, it would kind of go up in the air, explode, and kill those enemies, or do damage to those enemies within a certain radius. So that was the first kind of ability that I got. The second ability was this launcher, which you would place on the ground basically, and it would fire like freezing bullets or arrows at enemies. It would freeze the enemies for a period of time, which was great because I used I think it's the Technomancer, where it's kind of a long range Outrider. So for a lot of the period of time, I would throw that out ahead of me, and then enemies would be frozen, and then I could just pick them off with a sniper headshots, which was really nice. It felt really cool. And then when I got the third ability, which was also kind of like a it was basically a missile launcher. The difference between this one and the second skill is the second skill you can kind of throw it quite a long distance away. You can kind of aim it where you want. With the third one, it kind of gets placed next to you and it only fires in front of you. So it does a first volley, which was about a couple of meters, and then does a second volley, which is much further. But if you put these two together, it's really cool. There was one moment where there was about 8 rushers, enemy AI rushers that came towards me. So I threw down the first turret, which kind of froze them in front of me. I threw down the second one, which fired kind of missiles, and it just destroyed all of them in one go. And it felt really good. And considering this is, again, guys, this is a demo, I'm excited to see what stuff there is coming in terms of abilities and skills and stuff, which we'll get onto. But so yeah, in terms of the abilities and stuff, it felt really good. Now, I didn't manage to play, or I haven't played any of the other characters, but I did watch a couple of streams last night of other people playing other characters, and just for the most part, the abilities just are really cool. They're very well animated. They look really cool. There's this one where you kind of throw down this, I don't know what it is, but it feels like this kind of like ice bubble, and it kind of disintegrates the enemies within it. It looks really cool, and just overall the abilities are going to be by far the best part in this game, along with the loot. And talking of loot, yeah, the loot in this game is pretty cool. I did see a couple of videos of people picking up some like legendary weapons, which look amazing. Now, I already knew that there was going to be some really good loot in this game, some well-designed looking loot, and loot that actually looks like it's going to play very well within the game in terms of the abilities that this loot can do. I didn't manage to pick up any kind of legendaries. I did pick up some good loot, some stuff which there was an assault rifle I believe I had where after so many bullets it would apply kind of like a burn as well. Which was pretty cool. So yeah, overall loot wise it looks interesting. The loot looks good, and you know, unlike some like Avengers, in this game when you apply a skin or you put on summer or you have a new weapon, it actually changes how your character looks, which is what it should do, which is always good. I did have one problem with the loot kind of delivery. It's more of a quality of life issue, but I would have liked to have seen the devs pick this up, because it's just apparent in pretty much every other looter shooter. What you'll find is that when you pick up loot, it drops onto the floor. On Xbox, where I was playing, you know, you press X, you pick that loot up, and then it shows an icon in the bottom of what that loot is. And as you're going through each kind of mission, you're picking up loot and whatever, and you get towards the end of the mission, and then you go into your inventory. But there's no icon to tell you what loot you've picked up. So there's nothing to say, oh look, you've picked up some boots here, so just click on those. So what you end up doing is going through each individual piece of gear to see what loot you've picked up, and even then when you do that, you don't know what's new and what's not. Now, fortunately in the demo, for the most part, the stuff that you're picking up is just increasing your power. So you can see that whatever you've picked up that's new is, you get this little green arrow which shows that it's an increase in power. But it doesn't show that it's new in the sense, because if you get further into the game and you're not getting stuff which is actually an increase in power, it's just going to have something else there, but it doesn't show that it's new. And that for me felt like a bit of a problem. I didn't like that at all, because there was a lot of the times where I'd go into my inventory and I would have to click through all my weapons or all my pieces of gear to see what stuff I picked up from that previous mission. Whereas if there was some kind of icon which said, hey, you know, you've got some new boots, or you've got this this piece of headgear, then you could just go straight onto that. It would have an icon next to the piece of gear that's new, and you would just go onto that, and you could see what it is. In the Division, we have that. In Destiny, you have that, and in most looter shooter games, you have that. So it was a little bit. Yeah, I didn't like that. It is a quality of life issue, but I would have liked to have seen that. This game is meant to be a full product. It's not a live service game, so to not have that was a bit disappointing. Also, as well, as I'm talking about inventory, the dismantling process for this game is pretty bad at the moment, and I don't know if this is just a demo thing, but there's quite a lot of lag involved with it. So what would happen is I'd go on a chess piece, for example, and I'd want to dismantle it, but you kind of move your cursor over the piece that you want to dismantle, and then it takes about a second or two before it allows you to dismantle it, which is just, again, I know I'm being nitpicky here, but these are the kind of things that are frustrating. These are the things that I picked up on that frustrated me, that I know other games do a lot better. In Destiny, you don't have that problem. In The Division, you don't have that problem. You can pretty much dismantle stuff just there and then. It's pretty quick. This game, there's quite a lot of lag involved in that. And just opening up your inventory as well in this game is quite slow. Again, this stuff could just be ironed out in the final product. I'm just reviewing the demo, obviously, but that stuff is quite slow, quite clunky for me, and I didn't particularly enjoy that part of the game. And that's quite a huge part of the game as well, and that's the problem. You're constantly going into your inventory to look at the new gear that you've picked up, or to dismantle gear that you don't want for currency. You're constantly having to do that, and so when it's not smooth, then it's quite jarring, and that's what I felt with that. So yeah, the other thing that I wanted to mention that I didn't particularly like, guys, and I know I'm being a little bit negative here, but overall my experience isn't the best. I mean, you've seen the title of the video. I won't be pre-ordering this game. So another thing that bothered me as well is the AI in this game, for me, is pretty bad. So what I found a lot of the time is that as I was using the sniper class, I was sat quite far back for the majority, and I'd have my kind of turrets put out in front of me when rushers came, which was fine. The rushers, a little bit annoying, but that's fine. You know, you need something to kind of, you know, make you move around a bit, otherwise it's just boring. And this game isn't a cover-based shooter. They want you to be in the action quite a lot. But what I found a lot was that I could just sit at the back of the map with a sniper, and the AI would sit in cover, but the cover was too small for them. So their head would always be peeking above the cover when they were in cover. So with a sniper, it was just a case of sitting back, popping each AI, and that was it. It was done. That's how easy it felt. So easy. And also, I felt like the aside from the rushers, which their job is to rush, the other AI for me just didn't really do a lot of. There wasn't a lot of movement involved. They didn't really flank that much. They didn't push up that much. They kind of just stayed in cover. There was a lot of instances where you'd have two AI in the same cover doing the exact same movement at the exact same time, and it didn't look good. It didn't feel good, and overall, I just don't think the AI is very good at this moment in time, which again really concerns me, considering this game has no PvP and it's PvE only. I would expect the actual AI to be much better than it is, and that's the same for the bosses, right? I think there was 3 bosses, maybe 2 bosses that you get to fight, and they were so easy. It wasn't funny. Like they were so easy, even under leveled. They were just easy. You're so quick and running around that you can dodge everything so easily, and there was no real mechanics to those bosses. Now this is kind of immune phase to them, but didn't really make any difference, to be honest. You could just kind of shoot through the immune phase, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't like the AI. I don't think the AI's that great at the moment. Now that could change. Obviously, this could just be kind of the grunts or the runts of the litter. But at the moment, AI is not great, and that's a real concern of mine, because it's a PvE only game, and you need good AI for a PvE only game. Yeah. The other bad thing that I didn't like, guys, is that, and again, this is more of a quality of life issue. In order to fast travel in this game, you have to find a banner. That annoys me. It means that when you're in kind of like the base, you have to run to a banner in order to fast travel to a location. I don't know why that's there. You know, you look at Division again, you look at Destiny 2, you look at other looter shooter games. That's not there. You can press select, open up the world, and fast travel to where you want to. It's fluid, it's smooth. You don't have to just run somewhere. I don't know. I feel as though there's a lot of quality of life issues in this game that, had the developers looked at other games within the market and seen what they were doing, they could have implemented as well, and just made that whole experience more fluid, smoother, and just overall a better product. And they've not done that. And again, that's a concern of mine, because this game is meant to be, a full game, Right, it's not a live service game. They've said that if there's a lot of interaction with the game, then they'll make further DLCs and stuff. But it's not a case of working on it every week like you get in other games and adding new stuff every week and stuff. So that bothers me. The other thing that bothers me is the camera shaking on the cutscenes is truly awful. When the first cutscene kind of comes in, I was watching it and I was like, who is holding this camera? It's awful. And I thought, you know what, maybe that's just the first scene. But it persists throughout the whole game. And considering a lot of this demo, there's quite a lot of cutscenes to kind of get you into the story. I just couldn't watch them, guys. I'll be honest, I couldn't watch them because it was just my eyes and my brain were just being fried by the amount of shaking. And so that was that really put me off the cutscenes, which means I actually missed out on a lot of the story, which I've heard is actually okay. But I've not been able to experience it because I just simply can't get past the shaking on that camera. And I don't know if that's something that they can change, because it feels as though, this is pretty set in stone. If you consider the game's meant to be coming out in 4 or 5 weeks, I don't think they can change that at this point. But if they can, they need to, because honestly, I reckon a lot of people are going to be put off by the cutscenes, and they're going to miss out on a huge portion of the game, which is the story, as a result of the shaking of the camera for a lot of it. What I will say, guys, kind of on a more positive note as I come towards the end of this video, is that I did have fun. Right? There's no doubt about it. I did have fun. I think the abilities and the skill tree looks really, really interesting. It's pretty large. You only get to unlock one skill point, which I did, which gave me a little bit of increased health. And the skill tree does look interesting. You kind of get 3 paths that you can follow for each Outrider, and so that looks cool. I mean, it's not as in-depth as something like Path of Exile or games of that nature, but there's a lot there, and so that's quite interesting. And as I said before, in terms of the loot, there's going to be a lot there in terms of combinations. I mean, if you're the sort of person who likes to make builds, who likes to make crazy builds and synergies and stuff like that, you're going to be able to do it here, and I reckon you're going to get huge payoffs as well, and the game will look good in terms of the abilities and how they function and stuff, so that looks good. So yeah, I did have fun with the game. There are some issues here which I think need to be ironed out. I won't be pre-ordering it based on what I've experienced so far. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, guys, is in terms of the visuals. Now, visuals to me they're important, but they don't trump gameplay. For example, Minecraft. A lot of people love Minecraft just simply because of the gameplay loop. They don't care about what it looks like, because the gameplay loop is just so good. And for me, that's how I feel. Visuals come second, gameplay always comes first. So, but in this game, I don't know. The first vibe I got when I saw the visuals was Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't particularly like the visuals in this game that much. That's all I'm going to say about that. I just didn't really like the actual world itself. The world visuals didn't feel great. Again, it feels very arcadey. Every mission you go on is kind of in an arena. There's nothing great about those arenas. One of the 2 boss fights that I went into, it was just, there's a boss at the end of the room. You kind of got a bit of cover. There you go. There's nothing else in there. There's no mechanics in there. And to me, that can be okay when done properly. You look at someone like Destiny, it can be okay, but I personally prefer to have mechanics within the room. You look at something like Division, a lot of those boss fights have mechanics within the room that just make those boss fights that much more enjoyable. This game doesn't have that at the moment that I've seen. So we'll have to wait and see what the final product obviously has. But at the moment, from the demo, it doesn't have that. It's just you versus that guy who's got some abilities. And yeah, that's it. It's just a room. And it didn't feel, again, it just felt bland. That might be the right word, I'm not sure. It did feel a bit bland. But that's it, guys. I want to thank you very much for watching this. Let me know what you think of Outriders in the comments down below. I did put out a poll on Twitter, and I think a lot of people are enjoying it. But I think also a lot of people have the same issues that I do. If you don't like a Gears of War movement, I don't think you'll like this game. Until the next one, guys, Epic out.